am so honored tonight to have the most amazing OBGYN in the country, Dr. Natasha Adams Denny, who happens to be our very best friend. Gorgeous. Thank you for stopping by the set tonight.
Thank you for having me.
What you do is so amazing, working with women. And I think the OBGYNs that actually are women, females, can relate more to us as patients because you know what we're going through. You've experienced it. And one of the biggest questions I get and our viewers want expert advice on is menopause, all the different stages of menopause. So you have been practicing for how many years?
I've been practicing for about 20, I think
20 some years?
20 some odd years.
We're going to keep it at that, but you look 30, so it couldn't be that long ago. You just graduated from medical school, right?
Yeah, I was 16.
Well, I'll agree with that. And you love what you do. You have such a great bedside manner, and you care about your patients so much, and you've experienced so much. You had babies. Mm-hmm. You know, you have, you've just gone through the gamut of life. And so when someone comes to you that's perimenopause, that's beginning stages, as well as full-on menopause, there are different stages, correct?
There are. I mean, I feel like I've been through everything, like that in the whole book of OBGYN that women go through. I mean, when I was younger and having babies, like you said, like I was like every experience that you can research I would have, and I was like, this is just not fair, because I'm sure that like my male counterparts would just read it in the book, and I used to say, well, why do I have to experience it too? But I do really think that it is a gift and a blessing that I have been able to experience it. And now, sadly, going into the perimenopause and menopause years, I can totally understand what women are going through. And when I was younger, I used to say when women would come and talk about hot flashes and irritability, and I was just like, gosh, it's gonna be like awful to get older. But I feel like getting older, like what do they say, aging isn't for sissies. You have to embrace it, and being a woman is like one of the most powerful things and best things that you can, God's graced us with on this earth. So it you just kind of go into it gracefully, and that's what I really want women to do.
Because it's better than the alternative.
It is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not terrible. I mean, the way I look at it is it's part of getting, just part of life. You go through your reproductive age, and then when you're not in that reproductive age anymore, it's just a different chapter, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to just embrace it wholeheartedly. Perimenopause, the average age is 46, right? So that means that you could be going through it anytime between 30s and on into 50s. There's no exact age, or there's no exact timeline. Like some people say, well, it should last for about 10 years and then you'll be done. But I remember being in the grocery store looking at like different products that they have to help with hot flashes and all this, and a little 80-year-old woman was there, and she said, honey, don't even bother doing that because I still get hot flashes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is never gonna go away. But it's okay, it's just part of it. All it is that your ovaries just decide that they don't want to produce as much estrogen as they normally do when they needed to, when you had the capacity of having children. And so when you have a little bit of a reduction in the amount of estrogen that your body is accustomed to, you feel it in different ways. And every woman is different. So you can ask 100 women and they'll have 100 different experiences. Most people think of that whole menopause thing as you're going in the refrigerator and you're opening the freezer and putting your head in and you're like, I'm dying. Or, I guess that's how people make fun of it. Or you run outside because you're just too hot. You just want to be like stripped down naked, even if you're in a office space, right? Or, husbands will say, oh, you're just getting meaner. And, all these things are part of it, but it's not all encompassing of what menopause is, right? So perimenopause, like I said, the average age is 46, and the average age of actual menopause is 51. So when people start saying like in their 30s, like I'm just having some hot flashes or night sweats or not being able to sleep well, I'm like, well, you're probably in that perimenopause. And again, it can last forever. So you kind of like start it and then it never ends, but it's just a matter of learning to deal with it and to embrace it as part of what you're becoming, and it's not terrible is the thing. You just have to learn to live with it. Right. I do feel that some women they can get really sick from it, or like, the symptoms can be so horrible where you have the hot flashes, you can't function at work, or the irritability, you're not being able to get along with your coworkers and things like that. Or hair loss, for women, a lot of times that's like one of the worst things that can happen, because you're like, your hair is a sign of your beauty, but you just have to just go to the doctor and find that there are treatments that are available so that you don't have to suffer through those symptoms. Right. And like I was saying about the ovaries, so the ovaries are the organs that produce eggs, and they also produce estrogen, and they allow for you to be a woman, right? Because men don't have as much estrogen. There's a whole science thing. They have some, they just don't have as much as women do.
That's why we have babies.
That's why we have babies, right? And so over time, they just don't produce as much as they would normally. They act like bad teenagers, I think, and sometimes they decide that they want to function and sometimes they don't. When they function, you're fine, everything's functioning as normal. When they don't, that's when you have the hot flashes. You might notice a change in the periods, like maybe you're not getting a period every month, or maybe you're getting a period twice a month, which is the most annoying thing. That brings everyone running to me, like,
because we don't
something's
want
wrong.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then sometimes they feel that, they're just, the night sweats, the irritability, the sleeping less, that's really hard, because when you don't sleep, you don't feel well. You don't,
brain fog sometimes.
Right, that's part of it too. And all of those things can be controlled. Some people decide, what can you do? Can you take hormones? Should you take hormones? There was a whole study about 30 years ago where they stopped women from taking hormones. And I really believe that did a disservice to women, because we do need some type of supplementation in order to function in life. 100 years ago, they used to lock women up in asylums. And, now I'm like, well, it's probably because they were experiencing menopause, and how unfortunate that all it is. I mean, we are in the 20th century or 21st, whatever which one we're in. But I mean, we have the ability to have the medicine, the science is there. You just have to just be able to go to the doctor. And women are great about going to the doctor. We've done it all of our lives, so just come to the doctor, tell your symptoms, and I'm sure there's something that can help you to get through
the
those.
Trajectory. Like, every patient is different. The symptoms are all different. So you have to talk to your doctor.
You do.
To find the best protocol for you.
Right. And not every path is the right path. And, some people may have a family history of cancer, so they're afraid of taking hormones. But there's still other things that they can do to improve their quality of life. Right. And really, that's what it's become. It's like, your quality of life is the most important thing. You have to you're on this earth, we're here to make a difference, and we're here to function and be happy as best as we can. And you just want to be happy and functional, and be present for your children, or whatever it is that you have to do in life, and not suffer. And there's definitely medicinal things that can help with that.
Exactly. And the one thing that most women talk about is the vaginal dryness.
Yes.
Because when your hormones are less and the estrogen's less, that happens. But also, that's something that can be controlled.
It can be. So vaginal dryness is something that can be fixed. There's a lot of over-the-counter things that you can use. Like, some are water-based, but there's actually estrogen. So people look at the estrogen pamphlet, and if you're afraid of estrogen, right, which, some people have a reason to be, then they say, oh my gosh, it's estrogen, I can't do it. But there's different, again, you're only doing it twice a week. The way I tell patients is that it doesn't get absorbed into the body. It's less than 2% absorption. If you use a vaginal cream, say twice a week, it helps so much with vaginal dryness. I mean, some people describe that dryness as potato chips, and I'm like, the worst. I can't imagine my vagina feeling like a potato chip, but I understand that sandpapery type of feeling. And of course, intercourse. Who wants to have intercourse with sandpaper vagina? So the way estrogen does help with that, and it's like toothpaste. You just smear it in the vagina twice a week, and that does help to make a world of difference. It's almost life changing for some patients.
Right, and it's ask your doctor, because you are the expert. Okay, so I'm going to jump to another topic.
Okay. Here we go.
There are so many women that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that have jumped back into the game of dating. And with that is decades of not dating. And men that have, dated or not dated, been in relationships, 4 or 5 marriages, and sexually transmitted diseases of all sorts are out there. So how would you guide patients or direct them when they're beginning to get back in the dating world?
So it is really interesting. I do think that, women again, it's a different chapter of life. And the main thing, when you're in your 40s and 50s, it's way different from when you're a teenager. You're just meeting people, and everybody might be in their first dating role or whatever. But as you go along in life, you do have baggage that collects, and sometimes you have infections that may collect, and your body just holds on to them. A lot of the viruses that are around now, they kind of hide in your body. And
what are some of the viruses we should be?
So the main virus that, those two viruses that people should be aware of. Number one is HPV, which is human papillomavirus, and what that does is it causes changes in your cervix and your cervical cells, and kind of give you like a predisposition to cervical cancer. So that's the reason that you go to the doctor every year and you have a pap smear. Now they say you should have a pap smear at least every 3 years and test for that HPV virus. And if it is positive, then you definitely have to be mindful of going to that doctor every year, making sure that you check your pap.
And that's transmitted through?
It's transmitted through sexual intercourse.
Okay.
Usually you have that Gardasil vaccine now, which is a series of 3 that they try to give to most middle school children. But everybody talks about vaccines and all, viruses and all this, but HPV vaccine, if you get that vaccine before the onset of sexual activity, it's almost 100% protective against the human papillomavirus. Now, if you have it, then you say, well, there's no hope for me. But if you have it, you can still get the vaccine covered by most insurances up to age 45, and then off-label use even after age 45. And basically, all it does is it doesn't cure HPV, but it gives your body more defenses to be able to fight those precancerous cells so that you don't have to worry about cancer. Who wants to worry about cancer? Anything to prevent cancer.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's the only vaccine that we do have available that does prevent cancer.
Okay.
Right? So there's that one. What it does is it kind of hides in your body, hides in the dorsal nerve of your spine, and it comes out during stress or whatever. But again, you just come to the doctor every year and have the doctor worry about that. Right?
And that's what you do. That's where
what
you're
I
the
do.
expert. Exactly.
And the other virus that's around is herpes simplex virus. That's a virus that is also sexually transmitted. It's one of those viruses that has a stigma attached, and people say, oh my gosh, I have herpes, I'm a terrible person. It hurts when it comes on, so you have it, that kind of thing. Like the HPV, you don't know unless you go to the doctor and have a pap smear done. So with that one, there's antiviral medications that you can take for suppressive therapy, so that if you have it, you just take this medicine and then keep it at bay, keep it from shedding to your partner, and then you shouldn't have any issues with it at all.
So if they take the suppressive medicine,
then it prevents shedding.
And it prevents shedding.
Right. But it's very possible that your partner might have it too. They say 90% of Americans have been exposed to the herpes simplex virus at some point in their life. You could have had your grandpa kiss you when you were an infant, and then that virus just went and hid inside your spine, and then now here it is, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, where did I get it? You may not have gotten it from your partner. You may have gotten it from granny or grandpa.
You don't know.
You don't know.
But beware of it.
Be aware of it and just be mindful, and be open
Practice
with
safe
your
sex, probably.
Yes, definitely condoms are very, very, very important to help prevent the spread of sexually transmitted infections, and be open with your partner. I think the best relationships, and from what I hear now, everybody, they can exchange well, I went to the doctor and this is my report, and or we can go to it's a date to go to the doctor and get those vaccines and viruses checked and make sure everybody's on the right page.
And I'm just going to say, if both partners want to have sexual intercourse, they're like, oh, sure, where do I sign up? The other, where do I sign up? Because they want to be an active partner that they feel safe with.
And then that's a matter of, it's trust too, right? I think it gains trust if you're in it together, you have to be in it all the way. Right. And condoms are definitely number one. Obviously, it won't, you won't have to worry about pregnancy, but you just don't want to take home anything afterwards.
Right. You are amazing. You are just a wealth of information. I want you to come back and be a regular guest, because 80% of our viewers are women. And these are all issues that we deal with, and you're so relatable. You're one of my favorite people ever.
Thank you.
And you just have such a kindness and a good heart, and you care about your patients, and you care about your friends. So I'm just honored to have you tonight to stop by the set.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much. I hope I helped someone.
Absolutely did. Probably lots of viewers out there. I'm probably going to get 1 million viewer emails. So please come back.
Oh, look, I would love to.
So Dr. Natasha Adams Denny, OBGYN right here in Charlotte, but the best. So you need to feel cautious. you need to feel safe, and you need answers to all those questions, and hopefully you got it right here tonight.